the fallen Titan. The battlefield was a graveyard of smoke and shattered metal. Flames danced along twisted hulls of ruined vehicles, and the acrid stench of scorched ozone hung in the air like a shroud. Sergeant Elias Cross moved through the wreckage with deliberate steps, rifle raised, eyes sharp beneath the grime on his helmet visor. The retreat had gone sideways. His unit, Echo Company, had been ordered to fall back after the Vrethker launched a surprise flanking maneuver. The biomechanical monstrosities had torn through their lines like razors through silk. Radio comms were jammed. Half the squad was dead. Elias had been cut off, navigating the chaos alone for nearly 2 hours. He paused beside a collapsed artillery platform, its plating still warm, its gun arm mangled and twitching with dying energy. A groan caught his attention, deep, ragged, alien. Elias raised his rifle and edged toward the sound. Then he saw it. Buried beneath a collapsed piece of armor plating was a massive body, 8 feet tall, armored in ceremonial black and bronze war gear, soaked in green-black blood. A Xarnathi, and not just any Xarnathi. General Ka'renzek, Elias muttered. The name carried weight. The Xarnathi commander had led the charge against the Vrethker hive clusters on Jeridan 4. Brutal, efficient, famous for his disdain toward human tactics and humans in general. Elias remembered the quote from a debriefing. Humans are brittle things, fragile and loud. Now, the great general was broken. Ka'renzek lay still except for shallow breaths. His lower body was crushed beneath half a tank tread. Exposed neural fiber bundles sparked from his spine where his carapace had been torn open. His 2 main arms were limp. Only a secondary manipulator twitched, weakly brushing away smoke. Human, the voice rasped, wet and sharp like a knife over gravel. Elias didn't lower his weapon. You alive under there? A long pause. What does it matter? I am finished. Elias crouched beside the alien, eyes scanning the damage. He pulled out his medkit anyway. You're paralyzed, he said, tone flat, professional. Spinal cord shot, but you're stable. I can stop the bleeding. Get you out. Ka'renzek's compound eyes flicked to him. Others passed. They did not stop. Even my own kin. They were wrong. You are wasting effort, Ka'renzek growled. You cannot lift me. I am. What do your kind say? Dead weight. Elias smirked grimly as he sprayed coagulant over the gaping wound. You're ugly, heavy, and kind of dick. But I've carried worse. You think this is noble? You will die. Maybe, Elias replied, securing a pain inhibitor to Ka'renzek's exposed nerve bundle. But I'm not leaving you to rot here. Not my style. Ka'renzek laughed, or tried to. It came out as a painful, buzzing wheeze. You are strange, human. Name's Elias. The alien didn't reply. His breath was slowing, eyes dimming. The weight of pain and shame was heavier than the broken machinery pinning him down. With a grunt, Elias jammed a pry bar into the wreckage and shifted his body weight, straining muscles already sore from the last skirmish. The armor didn't budge. All right, Elias muttered, wiping sweat from his brow. New plan. He began rummaging through nearby debris, pulling out cables, shattered armor panels, and a ripped drop canvas. He worked fast, improvising a sled reinforced with polysteel rods. It wouldn't be pretty, but it might hold long enough to drag the alien through hell and back. As he worked, Ka'renzek watched in silence. Why? The alien asked finally. Elias didn't stop moving. Because nobody else did. The sled was ready in 10 minutes. With raw effort and a half-powered servo harness, Elias began levering Ka'renzek's bulk onto the platform. The alien groaned once in pain, but said nothing. The pride was still there, wounded but not dead. Strap in, General, Elias said, looping synthetic fiber over the alien's chest. Time to move. Ka'renzek didn't respond. But as Elias began dragging the sled across scorched ground, a secondary arm reached up and gripped the side of the sled. Not for stability. Out of solidarity. And far above them, storm clouds rolled across the blood-red sky as the war raged on. The weight of flesh and metal. The sled groaned under the strain, metal scraping against broken concrete and charred earth. Elias Cross leaned into the harness strapped around his torso, each step dragging the massive form of General Ka'renzek a few feet closer to the safe zone, if there still was one. The war had turned this city into a graveyard. Towering skyscrapers lay gutted, bridges collapsed into molten slag, and fires burned without care. Somewhere north, beyond the smoke, was a fallback point for Echo Company. Elias had no map, no comms, and no backup. Just a paralyzed alien and a gut full of stubborn. "You'll collapse before we reach anything," Ka'renzek rumbled from the sled behind him. "Your frame is inefficient. Your species was not made for this." "Yeah, well," Elias panted, "we're not made for 20-hour shifts either, but we still show up." "You are foolhardy. You keep saying that, but you're still here." Ka'renzek fell silent, though Elias could feel his compound gaze boring into him. The alien had stopped protesting, mostly. Maybe it was the pain meds. Maybe it was the fact that Elias had already hauled him half a click through enemy-controlled territory without stopping. Either way, the tension between them had shifted. Elias reached a crater at the intersection of two ruined avenues and dropped to one knee, catching his breath. The straps dug into his shoulders, but he welcomed the pain. It meant he was still moving. Ka'renzek's voice came softer this time. "Others did not stop for me. My own soldiers. Even the Valari medic unit. They deemed me a failed asset. Not the first time your kind treated life like a spreadsheet," Elias muttered, sipping from his canteen. "We lost a guy once. Got hit by a drone strike. Our evac bird was full, but we made room. Sat on the floor, held him in our arms. He didn't make it, but he didn't die alone." Ka'renzek said nothing for a while. Elias stood, knees shaking, and resumed the drag. They pressed on through an alleyway, half swallowed by debris. Shadows moved in the distance, too fast, too quiet. "Contact," Elias whispered, ducking behind a toppled cargo hauler. He drew his rifle and scanned the haze. 3 Vrethker scouts crept through the dust, tall, skeletal things with blade arms and featureless black masks. They moved with eerie grace, sniffing the air, clicking softly. Ka'renzek stirred. "Unstrap me. My shoulder weapon still functions." "You sure? Give me targeting. I will make the shots count." Elias nodded and quickly unhooked the alien's right harness. The mounted plasma turret on Ka'renzek's shoulder flickered to life with a shrill whine. Elias linked his visor feed to Ka'renzek's targeting system and tapped 3 quick indicators on the HUD. Click, click, click. The turret fired. 3 short, blue bolts of plasma lanced through the smoke. The first scout exploded into gore. The second screamed before collapsing. The third tried to flee but was cut down before it reached cover. Silence returned. "Nice shooting," Elias muttered. Ka'renzek gave a rasping breath, almost a laugh. "Precision does not require legs." Elias resettled the sled straps, sweat now pouring freely down his back. He glanced at the sky, still dark, still hostile. They moved again, 1 block at a time. Hours passed. Elias talked about Earth, about the smell of rain, about cities with no ash in the air. Ka'renzek listened, sometimes asking questions. Not as a commander, just as someone who'd never known those things. By dusk, Elias's legs buckled. He collapsed beside the sled and rolled onto his back, panting. "Leave me here," Ka'renzek said. "You've done more than I deserved. Go, save yourself." Elias turned his head and spat blood into the dirt. "You think I'm dragging your 6-ton ass across hell just to quit now? Don't insult me." Ka'renzek blinked slowly. "You are different." "No, just human." From a distance came the low thrum of artillery. Human lines. Closer now. Elias gritted his teeth and stood again. "Let's go, General." And though Ka'renzek made no sound, Elias felt it in the way the alien's arm gripped the sled edge again. That same quiet solidarity from earlier. They moved forward, together, into the fire and smoke. Brotherhood in the dust. The entrance to the tunnel yawned before them like the throat of a beast, half collapsed, reeking of chemical rot and something far worse. Vrethker spore. Elias hesitated at the edge, rifle raised, breath steaming in the cold underground air. "This is madness," Ka'renzek said from the sled behind him. "This path leads through their nest." Elias glanced over his shoulder. The horizon behind them shimmered orange with distant fire. The Vrethker horde was sweeping through the city at full strength. They had no other route. "They're flooding the surface. We'll never make it topside. Down here's our only shot." Ka'renzek was silent for a moment. Then, "Very well. Let's face their teeth in the dark." They descended slowly, Elias hauling the sled down uneven steps with controlled effort, every creak of metal threatening to echo into the depths. The maintenance tunnels had once served the city's transit grid. Now they were cracked and dripping, taken over by infestation, pulsing gross along the walls like tumors of resin and bone. Elias switched to infrared. Movement everywhere. They'd walked into a nest. The sled scraped against a rail, the sound sharp and sudden. Shrieks echoed through the tunnel, and within seconds, they were coming. Vrethker swarmlings, four-legged insectoids with hooked limbs and hollow eyes, fast and hungry. "Contact left," Elias shouted, raising his rifle and firing in tight bursts. Two swarmlings fell, but more poured from ceiling vents. Ka'renzek's turret whined and fired, slicing through the swarm with lethal precision. The confined space amplified the plasma blasts until Elias's ears rang with every shot. One of the creatures leapt at Elias. He ducked, slamming the butt of his rifle into its face, then kicked it back toward Ka'renzek. The alien's arm lashed out and pinned the beast against the wall, crushing it. "Behind you," Ka'renzek warned. Elias spun and shot two more closing in from the rear. One nicked his shoulder, just a scratch, but it burned like acid. Minutes passed like hours. Bodies piled up, steaming in the cold. When the last screecher fell, silence rushed in like a vacuum. Elias collapsed to one knee, blood running down his arm. "That sucked. You fight with fury," Ka'renzek said, "but you bleed too easily." "I bleed just fine," Elias grunted. "I just don't stop." Ka'renzek regarded him with those gleaming, unreadable eyes. "Your species is so fragile, and yet you endure." Elias sat back, letting the pain settle. "We've had to. We don't have armor plating or plasma weapons built into our spines. So we got stubborn instead." A long pause. "In my culture," Ka'renzek said slowly, "weakness is not tolerated. Those who fall are left behind to preserve strength." "Sounds lonely." "It is efficient, but not right," Elias said. "A strong army isn't the one that leaves its wounded to die. It's the one that brings them home." Ka'renzek lowered his gaze. "You shame me, Elias Cross. I look down on your kind. I saw only limitation." Elias gave a dry laugh. "Yeah, well, we're used to that. Back home," Ka'renzek continued, "there's a right, a sacred bond formed in battle. When two warriors survive certain death together, they become brothers of the dust. It is the highest honor." Elias tilted his head. "Is that your way of saying I've grown on you?" Ka'renzek extended his secondary arm slowly. "It is my way of saying, you're no longer just a human to me." Elias reached out and clasped the alien's clawed hand, ignoring the blood and grime. "Then we're in this together, brother." With renewed strength, Elias pushed forward, dragging the sled deeper into the tunnels. The swarmlings had thinned. Maybe the firefight scared them off. Maybe they had worse things to hunt. Eventually, a shaft of faint light broke through a cracked maintenance door ahead. Elias reached it and looked out. They were close. Through the broken slabs of concrete and steel, he saw the outer barricades of the human lines, burning, yes, but still holding. Tanks rolled in the distance. A battered mech limped across the skyline. The final stand was underway. He turned to Ka'renzek. "You said your mind's still sharp. Can you command from a war table?" Ka'renzek's eyes lit with purpose. "Even with shattered legs, I can outthink a dozen Vrethker warbirds." Elias nodded. "Then we're not done yet." They stepped, one dragging, one carried, out of the tunnel and into the light of the final battle. The last line. The triage perimeter was chaos. Medics shouted over the roar of artillery. Wounded soldiers, both human and alien, lay in lines beneath tarps. Drones zipped overhead delivering supplies, their hulls pockmarked from near misses. Smoke curled skyward from the shattered wall that marked the final defense line of New Terra Colony. Elias Cross stumbled through it, bloodied, dragging the battered sled with General Ka'renzek's paralyzed form strapped securely to it. His legs burned, his vision blurred, but he never let go. A young medic ran up. "Sergeant, we've got stretchers. We can take him from here." "No," Elias barked. "Not a med ward. I need a working uplink terminal. Secure. Priority command." The medic hesitated. "Sir, he's Xarnathi. Our protocols. He's not the enemy anymore. He's a war strategist. And right now, we need one." Behind Elias, Ka'renzek's plasma-riddled armor glinted dully in the light. The general's eyes locked onto the medic with cold authority. "Bring me to your command post." Immediately. That settled it. Within minutes, Ka'renzek was transferred, sled and all, to the operations bunker, a reinforced shelter of steel and ceramic plating. Screens flickered with frontline data. Holographic displays showed enemy swarm movements encircling the last pockets of resistance. Major Bannon, the ranking officer, looked up with disbelief. "You've got to be kidding me. That's Ka'renzek, the one who called us flesh clay. What's he doing in my command room?" Elias stepped forward. "Saving your ass." "Excuse me." He knows the Vrethker patterns. Their psychology. Their hive logic. "You want to hold this line? Let him see your deployment matrix." Bannon scoffed. "And trust an alien who couldn't even keep his own body upright?" Ka'renzek's turret shifted, aiming, not to fire, but as a gesture, a reminder of his reach. "I may be broken," he said, voice like thunder, "but I am not beaten. Let me show you how to win." Silence followed. Then Bannon sighed and waved to the techs. "Fine. Hook him in." Cables were jacked into Ka'renzek's neural ports. The screens shifted instantly, data streams reorganizing as his mind interfaced with the system. His voice changed too, sharper now, filled with purpose. "Shift your left flank." They're not attacking head-on. They're tunneling. 3 subterranean vectors. The ridge above Sector 9? It's a feint. Their queen is burrowed near the reactor lines. You're about to be gutted from underneath. "How do you know this?" Bannon asked, stunned. "I've killed 3 of their queens. They do not change strategy, they refine it." Elias stood back, arms crossed, watching the room transform. Orders were barked. Troops were redirected. Drones deployed to tunnel breaches. A doomsday turned into a fighting chance. 2 hours later, the swarm came. The ground shook as Vrethker war beasts surged through craters and tunnels. Screechers climbed walls, leaping at turret guns. The sky blackened with spore mines and chemical clouds. But this time, the humans were ready. And Ka'renzek was there, eyeing the storm. "Fire grid Sigma 4. Anticipate their drop burst. Now, redirect flame units to East Quadrant. Flush the crawlers out." Elias fought at the front, rifle in hand, teeth clenched as he ducked beneath a collapsing barricade. He fired shot after shot, clearing a path through twisted chitin and bile. Ka'renzek's voice rang in his comms like a cold fire, focused, relentless. And then, quiet. The Vrethker queen rose. Towering, bloated, covered in writhing limbs and birthing sacs, she emerged from the reactor breach with a howl that shattered glass. "We're out of heavy munitions," someone cried. Elias keyed into Ka'renzek. "Ideas." There was a pause. "Use me." "What?" "My sled. My turret core. Overloaded. You still carry explosives, yes?" Elias froze. "That'll kill you." "Yes, but it will kill her as well." A fair exchange. Elias glanced across the battlefield. The Queen's approach was seconds away. The defenses were breaking. This was the moment. "No," Elias said. "Not like that." He sprinted through the chaos, drawing fire, vaulting over debris, dragging Ka'renzek's sled with him. He jammed the explosives into the core manually. "You deserve a warrior's end. Let's do this together." Ka'renzek's voice softened. "Brother of the dust." They reached the breach. The Queen roared. Elias slammed the detonator into Ka'renzek's claw. "Go. Be legend." A bright blue flash. The Queen screamed, and then vanished in fire. Hours later, The battlefield was silent. Bodies, human, alien, insectoid, littered the ruin. But the Vrethker were gone. Fled. Broken. Elias lay in a med bay, half-conscious, burns down his arms. A shadow loomed above him, a Xarnathi captain. Sergeant Elias Cross, the alien said, bowing slightly. By decree of our council, you are to be honored with the mark of the flame. You fought as one of us. You saved one of us. Elias looked past the captain toward the charred remains of Ka'renzek's armor. No, he said, voice rough. He saved us.